I trust, read the documents that I sent you.
Yes, sir. I spent until 2:30 this morning reading them.
And, of course, you're familiar with last year's company report.
Oh, yes.
And what conclusion did you draw?
In all three cases, we got the deal. Over the Americans, French, everybody.
There would have been no documents for you to read if we had not got the orders.
No, sir, I suppose not.
I asked you what conclusion did you draw?
Well, the machine guns were delivered on time. The rest is on schedule.
But to put it another way, we are not going to deliver at all. It is your friend Joe Hine who is going to deliver. We are merely to design, manufacture, arrange shipment. It is your friend Hine who will do the actual delivery.
Describe them as my friends.
You work very closely together for people who are not Siamese twins.
The only reason I even speak to the man.
Listen to me, Harris. The firm of which I am chairman and you are employee was founded by my great-great-grandfather in 1801. We supplied arms for Moore at Corunna and Wellington to Waterloo. We became international. I have in my office one of the cannonballs which destroyed the Light Brigade at Balaclava. It was made by us and fired from a gun made by us. Today we employ some 90,000 people, give or take a few thousand. You agree?
Yes, sir.
What with?
We employ 90,000 people.
Hine, on the other hand, has an office in Marylebone, which is also his flat. He employs one assistant and a secretary.
Yes, and some extremely dubious tactics.
On those three transactions in which you were involved, Hine's net profit was, one might argue, disproportionate.
That's not true, sir. Most of his so-called profit went in bribes. Anyway, it was the only way we could get the business through Hine.
You mean it was the only way that we Pendles could get the business, or the only way that you Harris could get the business?
You four people know how it is. If the British government doesn't want to be involved directly with the deal, we have to...
Yes, I know how it is. It is the way my company has been working for a century and more.
Well, we have to go through people like Hine.
We have, over the years, employed people like Hine. We have set them up.
What do you want me to do?
Put it this way. I do not want Pendles to continue to work so that our fair profit goes to Hine.
But I can't possibly...
What you do, I leave to you. I have tried to keep this as informal as possible. I didn't want to have you summoned to my office. Fortunately, we both belong to this rather dreary club, so we met here.
I still don't see what...
Surely, Harris, the position is perfectly simple. I want one of two things. Either you arrange, and how you do it I leave to you. Either you arrange that there is a rather more realistic division of profit between Pendles and Hine, or I want our business to go through somebody else who will be more reasonable.
But he has the contacts.
I doubt if he is as well known as we are.
Well, no, sir, of course not. Let me explain. Let me get you another brandy.
I never take more than one glass of wine and one brandy at luncheon. I find it helps to keep my head clear during the afternoons. I shall expect your report in, shall we say, a week.
Oh dear, oh dear.
What is it?
This photograph. Would I be interested in buying, sight unseen, a squadron of tanks? And one's instinct says no. Not from a Frenchman who sold them to the losing side in a civil war in the first place. Now, he probably knows that I know that he sold these tanks, and he probably knows that I know that he bought them back again when the war was over. Still no reply?
No.
Well, there ought to be.
The secretary's having a message sent over the intercom.
I don't believe her. Oh, for heaven's sake, stop hanging over that phone. It'll deform your figure, and we can't risk that. Much more interesting than unsellable tanks is what is Mr., formerly Brigadier Harris, up to.
The secretary just said she didn't think he was back from lunch.
Ah, but I know he's back from lunch. He's just had lunch with Sir Christopher Pendle, KBE, CMG, Order of the Lion of Judah, Grand Cross of the Derbyshire Ram with 2 clusters at the Royal Imperial Club. If Harris won't answer the phone when I want to speak to him, then Sir Christopher, KBE, etc., has said something to him.
Are you sure they did have lunch together?
I doubt if the Royal Imperial Club is yet ready to have me as a member, which doesn't stop me from knowing what goes on there when I want to, which isn't often. Now, what could Harris possibly have in his tiny mind that could stop him from speaking to me?
Come to that, what do you want to speak to him about?
I don't want to speak to him at all. I just wanted to find out if whatever Sir Christopher has said to him could have made any difference in his normal desire to find out what I'm up to. Oh, the poor bastard.
Harris?
No, that old chap outside playing the clarinet. It's horrifying enough having to beg. But you have to excuse your begging by doing something as badly as that. This is an old trick, but it'll be very interesting to find out if it works. Go down and give him this, and then ask him to let me know if it makes any difference to his takings, will you? Perhaps you can get through to him.
There's a complete record of all the transactions he's known to have been involved in. Yes, I realize that. Do the best you can, will you? Thank you. Any joy from the Old Comrades Association yet?
No, sir, nor his school.
Mervyn Percival Ford, with an E. Should be traceable with a name like that. You've been in the London area, is that sort? Get hold of the electoral registers and go through them. I realize you'll need help, but you have my authority to use anyone you want. Start in the Kensington, Chelsea areas and work outwards. Mervyn Percival Ford. Hello, Ford.
Hello.
No need for the sir now. I'm no longer a brigadier. You're no longer a lieutenant.
Captain.
Acting captain.
Just, having game of squash.
I soon. You lost then.
It was a close game, though. You all wanted to see me?
Yes. A bit of a job getting hold of you. You let your subscription to the Old Comrades Association lapse.
Just an oversight.
How are things going then?
Oh, pretty well, actually.
Oh. What are you doing now?
Well, at this exact moment, nothing, but, got quite a lot of things in the air.
Fine.
Yeah, it's just a question of picking the best one, you know. You're still with Pendles?
Yes. That's what I wanted to see you about. If you'd like a job.
As I say, I have had these offers, but, I'm always ready to consider another one if it's good enough.
Who isn't?
What sort of job? In management, presumably?
Not exactly.
What then?
Let me give you the background.
Yes. Go ahead.
As you know, we at Pendles make, among other things, arms.
I've handled enough of them.
We also sell them. We sell them directly, and sometimes we sell them indirectly through dealers.
Yeah.
Naturally, we make a bigger profit when we sell them directly. And there is one particular dealer we want out of business.
What do you want me to do, then?
Let me ask you a question. What do you think of people who, on principle, oppose the sale of arms to foreign powers?
I mean, obvious crackpots.
But you don't belong to any political or semi-political organization.
Surely that's my affair.
Not if you're interested in this job, it isn't.
Yes, well, seeing as we served together, I don't mind telling you. No, I'm not.
And there's nobody who could prove that you had one political opinion rather than another. Good. Now, I'll tell you about this job.
Yes, I better make one thing clear first. As I say, I have had these various offers, so there's quite a lot of things to consider. Not just the salary, though I'm not the type who works at peanuts. But I am interested in promotion prospects, allowances, pension rights, all that sort of thing.
What I'm offering you is £5,000.
I can
On a
hardly...
fortnight.
A fortnight?
There'll be no promotion, no allowances, and no pension. And no reference at the end.
You said a fortnight?
Yes. After that, the job's over.
Well, obviously, one might be able to take the job, but one would have to set it against,
Against what?
if it meant missing out on another job. Mind you, the fact that the job comes from you, who one knew in the old days, the recommendation. I'd need time to think about it.
You can have till this evening.
Oh, I can
Let me be perfectly frank with you, for old time's sake. I know that you live in a flatlet here in this rather grand block that offers its tenants the use of squash courts.
Well, I must say
I
that's...
also know that you owe 6 weeks' rent.
Well,
The way I found your address was through one of these debt-collecting agencies. I'm sure they're unjustified, but you're considered a bad financial risk.
I'm sure.
I also know how you lost your last job.
I resigned.
On a Tuesday afternoon, with a month's salary.
It's a matter of principle.
Of course.
You know the sort of chap I am.
Indeed.
I don't want to be shoved about by some little grammar school twit with delusions of grandeur.
Now, the job I'm talking about is perfectly simple. In here is some information. It's confidential information. It's not secret. Anybody could find this information if he knew where to start looking for it, you understand?
Yeah.
But not many people would know where to start looking. This information is about certain transactions in arms carried out by a certain arms dealer. To those of us in the business, there's nothing immoral or indeed particularly surprising about this information. But a large section of the British public doesn't apply the same moral standards to transactions in, say, flamethrowers as it does to transactions in groceries. And that's why I asked if anybody could discover your political sentiments. You see, to do this job, you must seem to be a dedicated idealist. I'd suggest you join one or two organizations. Heaven knows enough of them. Organizations who consider that the sale of arms, and in particular making a profit from the sale of arms, is something of which we ought to be ashamed.
Yeah,
Don't interrupt me for the moment, please. All you need these organizations for is that is where you got the information. The fact that you gave it to them in the first place won't arise. The main thing is that this information can never be traced back to Pendles.
Ah, I understand.
When you happen to have put this information in such a place that you can discover it all over again, then you, with your newfound ideals, you do what any other member of these organizations would do. You feel it your duty to publicize it.
You mean I write an article or something?
That would be extremely foolish. For a start, nobody would publish it in anything read by people who don't already share your newfound ideals. And secondly, if I were the dealer mentioned, I should make it my job to find out just who you were and what were your real sentiments.
Oh, so, what do I do then?
You hand this information to somebody whose motives are above suspicion, and who frankly carries a little more weight in the public mind than you do. I want this information brought out. I want it given all the publicity it can get, and above all, I want the questions that are raised to be raised about this one particular arms dealer, not in any circumstances about Pendles.
Ah.
Not that we at Pendles have anything to be ashamed of, and even if we have, no government in its senses would risk wholesale unemployment, not to mention the loss of millions of pounds worth of exports to cripple Pendles. But the dealer this information is about, well, frankly, the national economy could survive without him.
Yeah, right, I'll do it.
I thought you would.
Fine to be working together again after all these years. Saw Major Harroway the other day. He's doing pretty well. Runs a travel agency, he told me.
Yes.
Oh, those were the days. What a crew we were. C.S.M. Hopkins, Jerry Davis, Captain Weech.
And Corporal Hine?
Yes, he was a fly one, all right.
He still is. He's the arms dealer I'm talking about.
Sue? Here's an oddity.
What's that?
Our friend Rashid. He's written to ask about the availability of the new 85mm guns to replace the old 80mm on his old tanks.
Hine
Plus
Enterprises.
all the bits and pieces you'd need to
One moment,
adapt them.
please. Someone wants to speak to you personally.
Well, he can't. At least not until I know who it is.
Says you know him.
Well, you don't get into Debrett for that.
Who's calling, please? One moment. It's a Captain Ford.
What army? You see, Rashid must know the recoil of the 85s will blow the backsides off the turrets of his tanks. Not to mention blowing the backsides off the people inside them.
He says he was in the British Army and you know him.
What name?
Ford with an E, he says.
Oh, God, yeah. What's he want?
Wants to see you.
Well, I don't want to see him.
Hello.
On the other hand, you could fit those 85s into Matadors. Now, Rashid doesn't have any Matadors, but two of his neighbouring Arab countries do.
He says it's terribly important he sees you.
Important to who?
You.
Oh, all right. Fix it. Give him 5 minutes sometime, will you? So Rashid is presumably hoping to do a deal, buy some guns, and then sell them to someone who won't be able to buy them in the normal way because there's an embargo on selling arms to them. Well, that's very nice, isn't it? Have you been listening to what I've been saying?
Yes. Captain Ford will be coming shortly.
Shortly? What do you mean, shortly?
In a minute or two. He was phoning from a box around the corner.
Oh, God. I was a corporal under Ford, you know. Ford is a snobby little twit. The last I heard about him was when there was a rather involved business about £700 of officers' mess funds that had mysteriously disappeared. When I got out of the army, Ford was in the running for a court-martial.
He still calls himself captain.
He would. Anyway, I seem to remember it all got blamed on some poor unknown wog and Ford got away with it. But that Rashid letter is much more important. You know what I think, love?
If I ever knew what you thought, I don't suppose I'd still be working for you.
Who has been getting at Rashid to get me into trouble? I think that Rashid, or somebody else, for some reason, wants to get me right up to the eyeballs in... No, I mustn't use that language in front of a lady.
That's the first compliment you've ever paid me.
That's a mental aberration. Please forgive me.
You've only to ask.
See, if I get involved in selling arms, albeit indirectly, to somebody that the British government isn't supposed to be selling arms to...
Oh, yes, go on.
That'll be very bad for my image, love.
Yes.
And these things get about.
Yes.
Particularly when, as the late Ernest Bevan put it... Oh, God, you make me feel very old. Ernest Bevan is a former British foreign minister. And he once remarked something to the effect that there aren't any Arabs in the House of Commons. Yeah, never mind. We'll just send Rashid a civil letter, pointing out that 85s wouldn't be of any use to him, as though he doesn't know that already. Just in case he really is that ignorant, let's put a call through to Sven in Stockholm, shall we? Those Yonlin 80mm of his are better than what Rashid has at the moment, and at least you can install them in his tanks.
Yes. Oh, good one. It's Captain Ford.
All right. You stay in here, leave the door open, and take down anything that seems to be of interest. Unless Ford has undergone some kind of religious conversion, I trust him about as far as I can throw him.
Captain Ford, do come this way.
Oh, thank you.
Captain Ford.
Hello, Hine.
Ford?
My word, you have come up in the world since we last met.
A bit. You?
Doing pretty well, actually.
Oh, good.
Mind if I sit down?
Hope you so.
Well, you're probably wondering why I called on you.
Well, frankly, yes. The last time we met, I seem to remember...
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah. You were in the process of sentencing me to 14 days CP.
Yes. Only doing my duty, you know. No hard feelings.
Oh, plenty.
Well, actually, this time I'm in a position to do you a favor.
Go on.
Well, it's like this. You see, I'm employed by an organization to investigate the arms trade.
What organization?
Well, it's rather unofficial. Let's just call it part of the United Nations.
Yeah, let's just call it that.
Obviously, your name cropped up.
Well, it would. This is my business.
And I thought there can't be two people in the world called Joe Hine. Surely that's the chap I was in the army with.
And I was.
Yes.
So?
So I thought, damn it, if you fought alongside a chap...
I don't remember any actual fighting. The war was over.
Yes, well, I mean, if you've served alongside a chap, it's only fair to let him know what the score is.
And what is the score?
There's no suspicion you've done anything illegal. Let me make that quite clear.
Well, one does try to avoid it. I did get fined for speeding the other day.
But in the wrong hands, that information could be interpreted
Aha.
as, well, arms dealing. Some people feel there's a moral issue involved.
Oh, a moral issue? You feel that?
No, not exactly.
You see, somehow I never thought of you as a moralist.
But the facts are right.
Not all of them, no. On these torpedoes.
Yes?
You see, I wasn't on 3.5%. I was on 4. And there's this deal here. My profit was about £9,000 less than your estimate.
But the quotes...
You see, the quotes don't allow for entertaining expenses. You know how it is. People expect to be taken out to dinner and so on. And in some parts of the world, taking the Minister of Defence out to dinner can cost £50,000. They always order the most expensive dishes.
But in general, the facts are accurate.
Oh, near enough, yes.
For example, on page 47...
You know what's on every page?
Those mortars.
What about them?
The serial numbers are quoted, aren't they?
Well, you wrote the file.
And you sold those mortars to E.F. Manitos and Company in Lisbon?
So it says here. I'm sure you're right.
Did you really think they'd be selling second-hand mortars to the Portuguese army?
I didn't ask.
So when the Biafran army collapsed, are you telling me that you were amazed when those mortars with those identifiable serial numbers were captured by the federal forces?
No, it takes a lot to surprise me.
Even though it was British government policy not to support Biafra.
But I didn't sell to Biafra. It says so here.
All the same, it wouldn't look good. For you.
And just one thing. Where did you get these facts?
Oh, I've been doing a lot of research.
Oh, good. Just as long as my accountant hasn't been handing out confidential information.
Nothing like that.
Well, as we were old chums together in the army, you said you were in a position to do me a favour.
Yes.
What favour?
I needn't pass that particular file on.
To the United Nations?
Yes.
But that would mean you'd have to resign from your job.
Exactly, yes. You see, I'm the only person who has this information at the moment.
You do your own typing, then?
Huh?
Well, your typist, she must have this information. But you see, old man, she doesn't know what it means.
But you and I, old man, we know what it means.
Yes. Well, you'd lose a lot of money giving up this job. Frankly, yes.
How much?
I'm sorry?
How much would you lose?
I'm not asking for something for nothing.
So far, you haven't asked for anything, huh?
Exactly.
And that's why I brought the matter up, to save you embarrassment.
Well, of course, I would need another job.
Oh, of course, yes.
I mean, if that information got into the wrong hands.
You still haven't quite said how much.
At the moment, I'm earning 6,000.
6,000.
No, plus expenses. See, what I had in mind, I mean, I'm the sort of chap...
What sort of chap?
With the right sort of background.
Which I lack.
Well, that's not quite what
Despite my background, I get along.
Naturally.
She was asking me for a job, not the other way round.
Now, look here, Hine, that's not the point.
You're quite right, that's not the point. The point is I don't happen to need anybody else on my staff with or without your background.
There is another solution.
What?
The same offer on different terms.
What terms?
Cash terms.
And how much is that going to cost?
10,000. For the risk.
I don't know what you think you're at, Ford, but you're out of your depth. I don't believe your story about the United Nations. I am a very small fish in a very large pond. If the United Nations wanted to investigate the arms trade, they wouldn't start with me. There are many bigger fish in the pond. So get out.
You're making one hell of a mistake, Hine. Let me tell you that.
Mr. Hine, please. I said get out. You're forgetting one thing. We're no longer in the army, so if I kick your teeth through the back of your head, it doesn't count as assaulting a superior officer, not anymore. So get out. You're forgetting your file. Not that I don't believe you have a duplicate.
You can bet your street life I have. As far as I'm concerned, Hine, you're still a stinking little corporal.
Did you get that?
Yes.
Well, let's try that call to Stockholm, shall we?
What was behind all that?
I don't know. But I got a feeling we'll soon find out.
Continental Services, please.
Oh, blimey, sir. Why, thank you. I'll give you a little tune for that, sir.
Well, look, why don't you pot up there? There's a much better pitch on the corner by the club.
Thank you, sir.
Afternoon, love.
Hello.
Anything interesting?
Confirmation from Milan.
Oh, good.
3 letters marked private that I haven't opened.
Good, you're lying.
Oh, and a Mr. Dyson called.
Dyson, there are lots of Dysons.
This one was phoning from the House of Commons.
Well, George Dyson?
Yeah.
Well, get him, quick. Here we grew up together. This old man had a grocery shop next to our house. He was my best friend when I was a kid. He's the only MP who's too outspoken and honest to get into any government. The only thing we ever argued about was that I supported Manchester City and he supported Manchester United.
Mr. Hine, please.
Hello, George. How are you? It's Joe. Yeah. Hey, it's marvelous to know you're still about. What can I do for you? No. No, it's more or less accurate. Yeah, it's all in there. No, not down at the House of Commons. I don't like the food there. Well, what about Thursday? Yeah, next week, eh? There's a place called Elgin's in Berkeley Street. Let's meet there, shall we? Yeah, well, I know you've got to be back for question time, so let's say 12:15, shall we? Fine. No, I quite understand. Okay, bye.
What did he want?
Well, now we know what Ford did with that file on me. You give it to George Dyson. So we're meeting for lunch.
Why?
Because George Dyson is going to use that file to try to put every private arms dealer out of business. Starting with me.
Good evening, sir. I'm from Metropolitan Confidential Investigations. My name's Hallett, Cyril Hallett.
Right, sit down, Froggy. Corporal Hine! Sergeant Hallett, Special Branch, Military Police.
I never thought I'd see you again.
Never thought I'd see you again. How are things?
Oh, not so bad.
When did you get out of the army?
A few months after you did, and then I went into the Met.
Oh, yeah, what's that like?
Well, you know what the bombers are like. It's the money, really. So I got out of that, and then me and a couple of others went in the private detective business.
Oh, come on, sit down then. You're still a big Scotchman, I take it.
I am.
Is it profitable business?
Oh, it's all right. We don't rise to an office like this, though.
No, but it's cushy number, isn't it?
Oh, dang cushy. It's mostly, well, Mrs. So-and-so notices that the husband takes a lot of weekends off on business. She also notices that Mr. So-and-so has a new blonde secretary. So she rings us. The only trouble is they keep on trying to make it easy to get a divorce. The good old days when you used to take the morning tea up to the hotel bedroom. We don't need all that now. It's over. But there's still a lot of work one way and another.
Good. Well, I've got a job. Thought it might appeal to you. That's why I found out where you were.
What sort of a job?
Well, remember that last case you won in the army?
That bastard Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got away with it. What's more, he made me apologize to him. I work for expenses only if it's anything to do with him.
Well, only indirectly. You see, he's trying to blackmail me in a way.
I'd love to fix him.
Well, it's not quite that. There's someone else involved. A friend of mine.
Friend in quotation marks, everyone.
No. A real friend. A man I like and respect.
Ford's after him?
No, but Ford's trying to use him to wreck me. All I want you to do is find out about this other man.
Find out what?
I don't know. That's your problem. If I knew, I wouldn't have needed you. But every man has a secret. So, find out his. And then, forget it.
Yeah, okay.
But Froggy, forget it completely. I want no records, nothing. I want to hurt him as little as I possibly can. Cheers.
Cheers.
Sorry I'm late, I got stuck.
You're not late, it was early.
Oh, it's great to see you again. You've not changed a bit.
It's good to see you. You've changed a hell of a lot.
No, it's one of the suit. I'm the same underneath.
Good morning, Mr. Hine.
Hey, Joe.
Your usual table is reserved.
Good.
Would you like to have a drink at the bar first?
No, we'll go straight through, shall we?
Very good, sir.
Come on, then. Get your bus in. Right. Well, what'll you have to drink while you decide?
Oh, I'll just have a beer. A beer? Any particular beer, sir? Half a bitter? Certainly, sir. And your usual, sir?
Yeah, large scotch, eh?
Well, this is a bit different from what we get in the house.
Well, that's why I suggested we came here.
And it's a hell of a lot different from what you and I used to get when we were kids.
What, haddock and chips twice every Saturday after the match?
Obviously a profitable line to be in your business.
Oh, for those who survive, it's all right.
You mean those who survive the competition or those who survive the bullet?
Go on, bit, George. It's a business like any other.
It's not to me, it isn't. If you'll let me know when you're ready to order, sir.
Yeah.
Do you know something?
Hmm?
When we were kids, of all the ones in our gang, you were the one I'd have backed to finish up doing something worth doing.
Come on, just decide, will you? I see the filet de boeuf grassan is on today, and they do that pretty well here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I've still got Frank Swift's autograph somewhere.
Hey, so have I.
Do you remember that hole in the wall at Main Road where we used to crawl in?
Well, we couldn't have seen a match any other way, not on sixpence a week pocket money.
Yeah. You found the hole there, didn't you? They were good days, weren't they? Cheers, George.
Charles.
Well, have you decided yet?
No.
Well, if it's anything that goes with the Burgundy, they've got a few bottles of the Richebourg that aren't on the wine list.
Yeah, I'll stick to beer.
Why?
Now, look, when we were kids, on sixpence a week, if someone had told me I'd be making 3,250 a year, it was more than I could have imagined. But it's not much, you know, when you've got a wife, 3 kids, an old man who's worked for 50 years and never managed to save a penny, and who's too proud to go on the assistance, and you've got to pay for a flat in town, a house in Manchester, and a secretary. That's why I stick to beer.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what are you eating? Charles, are the avocados any good today?
Best this season, sir.
Right, well, I'll have avocado and then the beurre bressan.
Very good, sir. And I'll have grapefruit and then the cutlets.
Sir.
Tell me something, George.
Mm-hmm.
You were always the bright one, weren't you? I mean, you were the one who got all the scholarships and went to university and so on. Couldn't you do something better than just being a backbench MP?
I'm not the sort they put on the front bench.
No, I know you've had your punch-ups with the whips, but you're one of the few MPs anybody's ever heard of. You could get a job anywhere.
I've got a job, just.
I mean in business.
Or selling things for people to kill each other with.
The wine, sir?
Well, my friend's hooked on hops, so another half a bit of him. Have you got any half bottles of Richburg?
I think there are one or two, sir.
Right, well, I'll just have one of them.
Look, we came from the same background. We more or less lived in each other's pockets.
Yeah,
Can you honestly say you're doing something you'd have settled for in those days?
I get by.
It's not what I asked.
George, I'm in business. I buy and sell things. I'm a valuable part of the export driver, so they tell me.
Oh, the export drive.
Yeah. One of the leading members of your party, he was in the cabinet then, he asked me to dinner at his house, and there were about a dozen of us, exporters. And he took me aside after dinner. It was really rather funny. Now, everybody else there, they were going to be given knighthoods for doing exactly what I was doing, exporting, earning foreign currency. And he went to a great deal of trouble to explain that whilst I could never be given a knighthood because it might not give the electors the right impression, the government was just as appreciative of my efforts as it was of all the other guests.
He can say what he likes. He isn't speaking for me.
If I didn't do what I do, somebody else would do it.
Prostitute could say that.
Oh, stop being so melodramatic and sup your ass. Neither of us ever got anything the easy way. My old man, if he was still alive, he'd be just as destitute as yours. Give what his pension was after 40 bloody years on the railways. 28 bob a week and a clock. And he died sitting in his chair in front of a gas fire he hadn't got the money to light, looking at that clock, just watching it. If he could have just held on till I really got going, he'd have lived the way he deserved to live. Thank you. We didn't get anything the easy way, did we? Nobody ever came up to you or me and said, I say, old boy, what about being a director of something, eh? I mean, we don't want you to work, just turn up a couple of times a year and let's call it 10,000, shall we? No, let's make it 12. It's just that we'd like your name on our note plate.
No, neither of us had it given to us. I remember the first time I stood for Parliament. 59. I was one of those bright, working-class lads the party likes to get on television at the annual conference. So they gave me a seat to fight. I had a majority of 16,000 against me. And you know, I really thought I was going to win it. Anyway, I nibbled the majority down a bit, so they gave me a better seat. Only 2,500 this time. And I fought like a cornered rat. Any old people's club, any Boy Scouts rally, any carnival queen, anything. They only had to ask me, and I'd do it. And in 64, I got in. With a majority of 22. Oh, I was flat broke. I was living in one room, but I was a member of Parliament. They had 3 recounts, but I'd made it.
Yeah, I remember. Sent you a telegram and a bottle of champagne.
Got the telegram all right. I think that my agent and me chairman drank most of the champagne. I never got any.
Anyway, you say you prefer beer?
No, it isn't really that. I've just seen what's happened to a lot of people who got into Parliament and then forgot about the people who put them there.
Do you realise we haven't met since the day you got married?
I'm not surprised. That present of yours must have upset you a bit.
Well, I've always tried to overcome my prejudices.
Do you know Margaret thought it was a bill that had got him by mistake? You know, I've always wanted to ask you how you managed that.
Influence.
Well, 2 tickets for life for the director's box at Manchester United. Do you know, the whole wedding reception, I think that was the only bit I really enjoyed when I opened that envelope. Probably cost me the Manchester City vote, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, it was about that time I had to decide whether to toe the party line, like a good boy, or to do what I'd always believed men were sent to Parliament to do.
Well, your constituency backed you.
Yes, they were very good. Even when the party took the whiff away from me, they still backed me up. Do you know in 66 the majority was well over 5,000?
Yeah. But you're not so safe now.
No, a majority of 102, but at least they held the seat.
Yep. You held the seat.
Ah.
Just pour it out, Charles. I'll let you know if anything's wrong with it.
Joe, I don't believe there isn't another side to it. I can't believe you. You just sell arms. You sell things for people to kill each other with. I mean, you're not that sort of person. This file only shows one side of it. That you sold such and such to whoever it was. Tanks, CS gas, ammunition, flamethrowers, like a list of groceries. But I know you, it can't be as simple as that.
No, it's not. It's damned hard work sometimes.
Well, you must wonder what they're buying them for.
Oh, we're not kids anymore, George. No, I don't ask who they have in mind to use them against. I can guess, but...
When the government sells defensive weapons...
Look. When the government sells rocket launchers, it's just like selling catapults, only rocket launchers are more effective.
Lots of countries need them to defend themselves.
Defend them well? You think that a hand grenade is a defensive weapon? Or a fighter aircraft? Or a tank? You know as well as I do, there's no major power in the world that just has fighter aircraft. They have bombers as well. And they need the fighters to cover the bombers.
Look, Joe, all I'm trying to do is
All you're trying to do is to dodge
chance.
the logic of your own arguments. A total pacifist could argue that what I do is immoral, but you can't.
The facts in that file, do you agree that they're accurate?
More or less, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not exaggerated, blown up.
No, they're not. No, except for the commission. I pay a load of bribes out of that, and sometimes it drains off all the profits.
You admit that you pay bribes?
Yeah, to people overseas. I mean, like ministers and chiefs of staff. It's for the next round, for the bigger deal tomorrow.
Oh, by that, I suppose you mean the bigger, more lethal weapon?
George, the world has come a long way since the battering ram. It's what you call progress.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm going to bring this up in the Commons, and I'm going to go on bringing it up.
Just by way of interest, how much did you pay for that file?
Nothing. It was given to me.
By Captain Ford.
Well, his name was Ford, but he's not a captain, he's a pacifist.
He's not a pacifist. He's more a pacifist than you and I. He's a crook. Before he gave you that file, he offered it to me, but not for free, for £10,000.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't expect it to tell you. But he does know that we're old friends.
So that's why he chose me. He said that he believed that I'd use the information in the public interest without personal malice.
Oh, yeah. He's a sensitive soul.
Look, Joe, it still doesn't make any difference. You see, I think what you're doing is wicked.
George, you're being used.
I dare say I am, but I've still got to do it. That Biafra bit.
I never sailed down to Biafra.
You must have known where the arms were going.
Oh, I didn't. I mean, they could have gone to a dozen places, I could guess, but...
Look, I'd rather it was almost anyone in the world but you, but I'm still going to go through with it. I know you're not the only one, not even a particularly big dealer, I suppose, but it's you I've got to start with because it's you I've got the facts on.
George, please don't put
You'll
me in
lose.
a corner.
I'll use every weapon I've got. Not just against you, against the whole filthy business. I've always despised people who hid behind parliamentary privilege, but I'll even use that. After you, with the big arms dealers, I'll need legal immunity. If that's the only way I can get it, then I'll use it.
I'm asking you as a friend. Please don't make me fight.
I don't have any choice.
If I told you that all the facts in that file are lies, what would you do?
I believe you.
Look, George, whatever you do, it won't make any difference. It might make my life a bit harder. Perhaps for a time I might have to go through somebody else, the way other people have to go through me now, but it won't make any difference.
I don't know. But I've got to try it. I owe it
Oh,
to
neither
the
of us with our backgrounds owes anybody anything.
I owe it to the people who voted for me. I owe it to myself.
You owe those people, you owe yourself a little bit more than making life tricky for me for a few months. If you make me smash you, who's going to pay those debts?
What are you talking about?
Look, when we were kids, we can look back on the bits that were fun, can't we? But most of it wasn't fun.
No.
Never having quite enough money so that on Thursday night your old man couldn't even have cigarette butts to fill his pipe with. That wasn't fun. Going down to the railway station collecting engine numbers, and we saw all the trains full of people going away on holiday, but we couldn't afford to go away on holiday, could we? Well, that wasn't fun.
I know.
And we were comparatively well off.
Yes.
You remember Ginger Hughes? Remember how he was always off school with all those coughs and colds, and he was one of the toughest of all the lot in the school. But his dad had gone off, and he was one of 6, and when his shoes fell to bits, he had to get a new pair on the assistants. But that takes time. So Ginger was off school because he didn't have a spare pair.
Look, I remember.
There are still tens of thousands of people like that, George, and they need you. They need you to fight for them, that poor bastards. They've got no other voice.
I still don't see what this has got to do
George,
with selling
just
armament.
Don't make me fight you. If I break you, who's going to take your place?
You don't understand.
Look,
I'm
I'll be
not
perfectly
going
honest with you. I won't flatter you. There are precious few people in the House of Commons who might be remotely interested in the contents of that file, and there isn't one of them, except you, that I couldn't talk out of.
What you do, that's your affair.
No, it's yours too. You can make very little difference to my life. You can make no difference at all to the way the business I'm in is run. But I can smash you. You see, I've got a file as well. When you married Margaret, that was just after the '64 election, wasn't it? And then very soon after that, Margaret was... And now she's more or less permanently in a mental home. But you don't stop being a man, do you? You see, I know all about Diana as well.
Well, I hope you've got your facts right.
Yes, I know all the background. I know how she was married at 18.
And deserted a year later.
Yes, I know all about that.
She was pregnant, she was penniless.
But she still is technically married.
To a man who has never sent her a thing. A man she hasn't seen or heard of since. A man nobody even knows where he is.
I know where he is.
But what are you trying to say, Joe?
He must owe her a lot of maintenance, mustn't he? But she's not exactly destitute. Because you keep her.
I asked you, what are you trying to say?
Just that we were friends, George.
What'll you do?
I won't do anything. But Diana's husband will. He'll sue for divorce, and he'll cite you. And I don't think a majority of 102 could survive that sort of scandal. It'll smash you. It'll smash Diana. I don't know if Margaret will ever be in a fit state to understand.
You
but...
do that?
Yes, I would, if you make me.
I don't see why you shouldn't. After all, your whole life is built on destroying people.
Well, it's up to you.
Now listen, Joe. There's 3 years to go before the next election. No, I am not going to give in. I dare say the party will disown me, even the constituency party. They're a narrow-minded lot if you scratch them. They're narrow-minded because nobody ever tried to widen their minds. But they can't take my seat away from me. Well, they can take the whip away. They can disown me. But they can't stop me talking. Not for 3 years, and it won't take 3 years to bring the roof in on you and the whole stinking business you're in. You won't be hurting me. You'll hurt Diana. Now, you've never met her, have you? But that doesn't bother you, does it? Because you've never met any of the other people you've killed every time you go about your murdering business.
If I murder people, and I'm not saying I do, you murder them in millions.
What are you talking about?
You lot, politicians, political parties, you all decide where the money goes for roads and for houses, not because that's where the need is, but because that's where the votes are.
What's this got to do with anything?
Just this. That money could have gone to people who really need it. Never mind because some old people died last winter and some more are going to die this winter because they can't afford to keep warm, because they can't afford a balanced diet. They die so that your backers, or the backers of the other lot, so they stay happy and loyal. You all know where the big money comes from on both sides, and that's what decides where it goes.
I fought for these people too, you know.
George, I know you're holier than the rest of us, but that doesn't make any difference. If all the old age pensioners in this country just happen to live in a few constituencies, instead of being scattered about so their votes don't really count, you wouldn't have to fight for them. Every party will be falling over itself trying to help them.
I know that, but it still doesn't alter the argument. You are selling weapons to enable people to kill each other, and you don't mind who you sell them to.
I always do it with the full approval of the British government. But old age pensioners, that's a minor matter if you're counting heads, isn't it? I mean, how many people was it they finally decided drowned in that flooding in Bengal? Was it 500,000, 1 million, 2 million?
It was an appalling tragedy, but how does it affect what we're talking about?
Just that, for a hell of a lot less than various British governments have spent on aircraft that never flew and rockets that never worked. We could have built dams in Bengal and then nobody need ever have drowned at all. But of course, what's 1 million or so Bengal is? They're not part of the British electorate, are they? But when your government fails to build that dam and builds a few bombers instead, you're murdering in millions. Of course, I suppose you're best known for the work you've done on behalf of coloured people. What's that thing that you're connected with?
The Society for Racial Harmony.
Yeah, that figures. After all, there's 1,000 coloured voters in your constituency, and they all vote for you. You wouldn't be in Parliament
That's
if it wasn't
bloody
for the immigrants.
unfair, and you know it. That's not why I do what I do.
I know something else, too. As you say, you've got a house in your constituency, you've got your flat in London, and you've got a secretary. But you've also got a wife to keep in a private nursing home at 30 quid a week. You've got Diana to keep, you've got Diana's child to keep, you've got 3 children of your own. And your old man, he's not on the assistance, is he? Because you help out. You see, I've checked, George. Just as you have a file on me, I have a file on you. Now, you don't do that lot on your parliamentary salary of £3,250 a year, do you? You do it on £5,250 a year. And I know where that extra £2,000 come from. I didn't get it from breaking into the Inland Revenue offices and having a look at your tax returns, because that amount doesn't appear on your statements, does it? It comes as an anonymous gift from a Mr. Saeed Ali Sabur, a Pakistani who owns rather a large factory in your constituency, £2,000 a year, every year for the past 6 years.
He gives me that money because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I have to do.
George, I don't doubt it. But that's not the way it'll look, is it? The way the papers will take it up. It'll seem that a Pakistani immigrant bribes an MP to have a good, liberal attitude on racial problems. It won't look like a coincidence, your voting record on immigration, not when they know who's paying you. It won't just finish you. It'll put back the cause of racial harmony in this country right back somewhere before square one. It'll provide the best argument that the other side has ever had. And George, if you bring up my affairs inside the Commons, then I'll bring up yours outside. For all our sakes, George, for the sakes of all those people you're fighting for, don't make me do it.
Is everything all right, sir?
Yeah. We've just lost our appetites. I'll just have a coffee.
Yes, I'll see him. Oh, Mr. Hine, if you'd like some coffee.
No, thank you. I'll get to the point. I've just left George Dyson.
Dyson, isn't he an MP?
You know very well who he is.
I assure you he's never entered my life. But do go on, what you were saying.
This file, has that entered your life either?
Not as far as I know.
It's on me, on my work.
Oh,
What's interesting about it is what isn't in it.
I think that's true of most files.
Oddly enough, it relates only to work I've done in connection with armaments you don't manufacture.
I assure you I know nothing about this.
But somebody in your place does, doesn't he? Whoever it was provided the information to a man called Mervyn Ford.
I'm afraid I don't enjoy the same range of acquaintance as you do. Who on earth is Mervyn Ford?
Just ask around the people you do know.
Mervyn Ford sounds like somewhere in Hampshire.
Sir Christopher, I'm not joking.
Of course not.
Because if whoever provided this information to George Dyson through Ford doesn't make damn sure it isn't used, I'll make certain it's not the only information that crops up. And the newspapers are far more likely to be interested in the bits about you than the bits about me. You are bigger.
You think that George Dyson will use this information?
I don't know. George Dyson is one of the few men I call my friend. He's one of the considerably fewer men I like and respect. And you or one of your minions has put me into the position where I've had to threaten him. How he'll finally decide, I don't know.
I assure you it wasn't I who supplied this man, Ford, did you say, with this information?
But you know who did, don't you? If Dyson tries to destroy me and I have to fight back, I'll take the lid off the whole armaments business. I don't like being put in the position where I've got to sell my friends down the river, so just you call your dog off. Will you?
Yes? Oh, yes, sir. But, yes, I'll tell him, sir. Yes, straight away.